Hi, so today I'll be talking about some things never to say to an introverted feeler, so an INFP or an ISFP. So why don't we just go ahead and dive right into it? So the first little category is phrases like get over it or quit whining or stop complaining. You see, my brain kind of processes all of those phrases in a very similar way. I just find them really irritating and dismissive and disrespectful of feelings. So I just really don't like that phrase at all, whether it's directed at me or at somebody else, because then there's a part of me that'll just want to stick up and then defend that person too if I hear it directed toward anybody else as well. So not just toward me, but toward anybody. I just strongly think everybody should just have a right to feel the way they do, whether it makes sense to somebody else or not. I just think we would all just be better if we just respected each other's feelings and just our right to them and our entitlement to them and all of that good stuff. So, also just like with the introverted feeling, like the intensity of the feeling, that's and the way we feel, the reality of that is just like it's no joke, it's nothing to be dismissed, right? So, we don't want to trivialize that by telling people how to feel because, introverted feelers, like I've said before, are just so deeply in touch with what it's like to hurt, what it's like to be in a certain type of irritation, like a sandpaper irritation. We are just really deeply in touch with what it's like to miss something or even feel nostalgic. So just anything that trivializes emotion in general and, like I said, our right to feel it is just an absolute no-no. Right. Okay. So the other one would be things like you can make somebody do something because also introverted feelers can be very individualistic, and we want to just kind of own like the right to ourselves in a way, and we don't want to feel like somebody else thinks that they can control us. So like saying that you can make somebody do something just implies something about like how you see their right to free will and just how you see them as an autonomous human being with a will and mind and emotion and spirit of their own. So just anything controlling like that is also not a good thing to say. The other thing is that they're not an introverted feeler because that implies that you think you know better than they do an aspect of who they are, and we want to know. We're open to exploring different parts of ourselves that we may not have thought about before because that's always kind of nice and important to do, but we don't want somebody else to think that they own more knowledge of us than we have of ourselves. So by telling somebody that they're not an introverted feeler when that introverted feeling itself is an introverted feeling identity value, that is definitely a no-no as well. Another one, you're just a kid still. Yeah, that's another tricky one because the personal significance we might read into that is that you think we're somewhere farther behind in life than we really are. Like when I used to get handed kids menus at restaurants when I was younger, I used to hate that because I didn't see it as just a mistake somebody made. I saw it as saying something about whoever was handing out the menu thought I was. I read a lot of significance into that because I thought that they were basically saying I lacked experience or they were making assumptions in my taste that aren't necessarily true, thinking I had more childish taste and values or anything like that, more than I actually do, when in fact I was no longer a child and should have been treated as an adult. So, some people might, just write that off as a simple mistake somebody made, just looking at the person and handing them a kid's menu in a restaurant or whatever. But like, sometimes maybe for an introverted feeler who reads more personal significance into that, that may not be the case. That may not be how they read it. They may read it on a more personal level. So that is another thing too. Oh, and another thing is anything inauthentic or untrue. Like the idea of just deliberately misinforming or lying to or manipulating anybody in any way is also a big no-no, partially because we also see that as an infringement on who we are. Like it makes us feel like the other person sees us as like incompetent or dumb or naive in some way, and we don't want to be that necessarily. So we don't want that to imply anything about our intelligence or our character or anything like that. When you think that you can try to trick us in some way, we might read that as a reflection on ourselves. At least that's my experience anyway. So that as well. So I'm sure there are many other things. So, but that is a little bit that I'll talk about today. And of course, I don't know if you're interested in discussing or commenting, or if you have any other thoughts, feel free to put those in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this. See you later.